The Galaxy Council was a place where peace and cooperation were held above all else. It was made up of many species from different worlds, each with their own cultures and ideas. For years, the Council had worked together to keep the galaxy stable. They talked and solved problems through discussion, not war. Humans, a new and growing species from Earth, had always been seen as peaceful. Their history was filled with struggles, but they had always chosen words over weapons. At least that was what the galaxy believed. One day something changed. A strange message arrived. It was not a request or a plea, but a cold, direct declaration. The message was simple, but it shook the foundations of the Council. We are no longer interested in peace. The words were blunt, and the tone was serious. There was no sign of the kindness and cooperation the humans were once known for. Instead, there was a new power in their words, a power the galaxy had never seen before. The Council was thrown into confusion. For many years, humans had been growing in strength, but they had always preferred to negotiate. Now, this message suggested that something had changed. The humans, once thought to be harmless, had begun to make warships that could rival the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. The Council members gathered in an emergency meeting, each one of them wondering if the humans were serious or if this was just a bluff. "It must be a mistake," said a representative from the Rithians, a peaceful race known for their wisdom. "Humans have always chosen words over violence. Surely this message is just a misunderstanding." But the Zorvans, a fierce species that had fought many wars, were not so sure. "What if the humans are done with diplomacy?" said their leader. "They've been treated like a small and weak species for too long. Maybe they are showing us that they no longer need to rely on the Council." The room was filled with debate. Some Council members believed the humans were testing their strength. Others thought it was a warning that should be taken seriously. One thing was certain: if humanity had decided to go to war, bet it would be a war like no other. The Zorvans pushed for immediate action. They suggested that the Council send a fleet to Earth to show them that the galaxy would not tolerate such threats. But the Rithians and the other peaceful species argued that this was the wrong approach. They wanted to try one last time too. Talk to the humans, to ask them what had happened and why they had chosen this path. "I will go to Earth," said the representative from the Arceons, a neutral race. "I will speak to their leaders. We cannot let the galaxy fall into chaos. We must understand what has led them to make such a drastic decision," the Council agreed. The representative from the Arceons was respected for his calm nature and his ability to handle delicate matters. His mission was clear: find out if the humans were truly prepared for war, or if this was just a warning. He would speak with the human leaders and attempt to understand their motives. As the representative prepared for his journey, the galaxy waited. News of the message spread quickly, and many species began to make their own plans about the safety of their worlds, while others began to consider alliances. If humans were truly ready for war, there would be no easy way to stop them. The galaxy had always believed that peace was the way forward. But now, everything was uncertain. The representative's journey to Earth was filled with tension. As he traveled, he wondered what he would find. Would he encounter the same peaceful humans he had read about in the Council's reports? Or would he meet a new breed of humans, ones that had turned away from diplomacy and embraced power and war? When the representative finally landed on Earth, he was met with an unexpected sight. The humans had not welcomed him with the usual open arms. Instead, their military presence was everywhere. Massive ships hovered above the cities, and soldiers were stationed at every corner. It was clear that something was different. The peaceful world he had imagined was no longer the reality. The representative was led to a meeting room where the human leaders waited. As he entered, he was struck by the silence. There was no warmth, no friendly greetings. The humans looked at him with hard eyes, as if they were waiting for him to speak first. "I come as a representative of the Galaxy Council," the representative began. "We have received your message. We need to understand why you have chosen this path. What has caused such a shift in your attitude?" Human leader, a woman with a serious expression, stepped forward. "We have chosen war because the galaxy has always treated us as weak. You underestimated us, ignored us, and pushed us aside. We are done being overlooked. If peace is what you want, you must prove it. If not, we are ready for battle.
Ow.
The words were harsh, but they carried an undeniable truth. The humans had been silent for too long, and now they were speaking with strength. The representative felt a chill run down his spine. The humans were no longer the peaceful species he had known. They had changed. It was clear that they were ready to fight. The message from Earth was no longer just a warning. It was a promise. A promise that the humans would no longer remain silent. They were prepared for war, and they would not back. Down as the representative left the room, he knew that the council would have to make a difficult decision. Peace might still be possible, but only if the galaxy acted quickly. If they hesitated, the humans might just change the galaxy forever. The news of humanity's decision to choose war over peace spread like wildfire through the Galaxy Council. The peaceful species could hardly believe it, and those who had always viewed humans as weak began to realize the truth. This was not the same humanity they had once known. A new, more dangerous version of the human race had emerged. Their message was clear. They were done with diplomacy. The representative from the Arceans returned to the council, his face grim. He had witnessed the human military presence firsthand, and he was shaken. His mission had been to find answers, but what he found left him with more questions than ever before. The humans had built massive warship ships that could destroy entire fleets with a single blow. They had perfected technology that was far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. And worst of all, they were ready to use it. The humans have turned. They're back on peace, the representative said to the council. They have prepared for war, and they will not back down. Their leaders have made it clear that if the council does not accept their terms, they will fight. The council chamber fell. Silent. The weight of the representative's words hung heavy in the air. For years, the council had prided itself on keeping the peace between species. But now they faced a new threat as species that had been underestimated for far too long. Some council members, particularly the Rithians, were still reluctant to believe that war was the only option. There must be another way, said the Rithian representative, her voice filled with concern. We have always found solutions through dialogue. Surely we can reason with the humans. The Zorvons, who had long believed in the strength of military power, disagreed. The humans have made their choice, said the Zorvan leader, his eyes cold with certainty. They are not interested in peace. They want power, and they will stop at nothing to get it. The only way to deal with them now is through force. The debate grew heated, with some council members calling for immediate military action against Earth. They argued that if the humans were allowed to continue building their warships, they would become an unstoppable force. Others, like the Arceans and the Rithians, pleaded for more time to try and negotiate with humanity. They believed that it was possible to bring the humans back to the table before things escalated further. We cannot afford to act without thinking, said the Archine's representative. We need to send another delegation to Earth. We need to understand their motives better. If we act too quickly, we risk losing any chance of peace. Despite the arguments, the council could not reach a clear decision. The tension in the room was palpable as each species tried to decide what the future of the galaxy would look like. Would they continue their peaceful ways and risk the wrath of humanity, or would they prepare for war and fight back? As the debate continued, the humans remained silent, watching the council's every move from afar. Their message had been sent, and now it was up to the galaxy to decide how they would respond. But humanity had already made up its mind. They would not wait for the council to act. They were preparing their fleet, and they would not stop until they had what they believed was their rightful place in the galaxy. Meanwhile, people of Earth were in a state of uncertainty. News of their leader's decision had spread to every corner of their world, and many humans were unsure about what the future held. Some were afraid of the consequences of war, while others believed that it was the only way to prove that humanity was not to be underestimated. Across Earth, voices of both peace and war echoed. But the message from the government was clear. They had chosen war. As the council continued to debate, a decision had to be made. The longer they waited, the more dangerous the situation became. The humans were no longer the small, insignificant species they had once been. Their warships were growing stronger by the day, and with each passing moment, their readiness for a battle became clearer. The Council had no choice but to act, though they would accept humanity's terms, or prepare for the first war the galaxy had seen in centuries. The Archeans sent another delegation to Earth, hoping that a second attempt at diplomacy might succeed where the first had failed. But as they journeyed to Earth, they knew that the odds were stacked against them. The humans were no longer the species they had once known. They had changed, and the galaxy was about to find out just how much. The Council's leaders were running out of time. The human fleet was ready, and it was clear that they would not wait forever. The question was no longer if the galaxy would go to war, but when. Back on Earth, the humans prepared for battle. The warships that had once been seen as mere tools for defense were now symbols of humanity's strength. They were ready to show the galaxy what they were capable of. The message was simple. If the galaxy wanted war, they would get it. And if the galaxy wanted peace, it would come only on humanity's terms. As the tension built, it was clear that the future of the galaxy was hanging by a thread. One wrong move could lead to the destruction of everything the Council had worked so hard to build. The universe watched as the humans once thought to be harmless, prepared to make their mark on the galaxy in a way that no one could have predicted. The Council was in a state of crisis. The debate over humanity's decision to abandon diplomacy was only getting worse. Some members were ready for war, while others still hoped for a peaceful resolution. The idea of conflict with a species they had always considered weaker than most was hard for many to accept. Yet it became clear that the humans had grown tired of being underestimated. They would not be intimidated. Across the galaxy, every species had begun to take sides. Some were preparing their defenses, worried that Earth's rise to power would mean a major shift in the balance of the galaxy. Others, who had more faith in the peaceful nature of the humans, were desperate to avoid a fight. The debate that had started in the Council chamber spread to every corner of the galaxy. Rumors swirled, and the galaxy held its breath. On Earth, humanity's leaders were watching the Council's every move. They had made their decision clear. They would no longer stand by while their worth was questioned. The idea that they were just a minor species was something they had tolerated for years, but now they were determined to prove that they were a force to be reckoned with. But deep down, many humans wondered if war was the right answer. Was this truly the path they wanted to take? Among them, there were voices calling for peace. Some argued that humanity could find another way, a path that didn't involve bloodshed. But there were others who believed that war was necessary, that only through strength would the galaxy finally see the humans for who they truly were. Message from Earth was simple. Humanity would fight if the galaxy insisted on war. But if peace was what the galaxy wanted, the humans would demand respect. As the tensions grew, the Council realized that they had to take action. The Rithians, who had always been champions of diplomacy, continued to push for one last attempt at negotiation. They suggested sending a special envoy to Earth to offer a final chance for peace. But others disagreed. Zorvans were convinced that the time for talking had passed. Their military strength was their answer to every problem, and they believed it was time to show the humans that the galaxy could not be easily challenged. "There is no way we can continue to sit back and let this continue," said the Zorvan leader. "The humans have shown their hand. If they want war, we must give them a war they will never forget." Despite the Zorvan's demands, the Council knew they could not afford to make any hasty decisions. A war with humanity could change everything, and the risks were too great. The Galaxy Council had not seen a full-scale war in centuries, and they feared the consequences. The last great conflict in the galaxy had nearly destroyed entire civilizations. The Council had worked tirelessly to ensure that peace remained the priority, but now that peace seemed to be slipping away. A small group of neutral species, including the Arceans, began to take a more cautious approach. "We must show humanity that we value them, that we believe in their future," said an Arcean's leader. "We need to make them understand that peace is still possible, that they don't have to choose war." But others pointed out that this was a lost cause. Humanity has made its choice. They are no longer the peaceful species we once knew. They are powerful, and they will use that power to get what they want, said the Zorvan leader. This is no longer about talking, it's about survival. As the debate raged on in the council, the reality of the situation began to sink in. The humans had taken control of the situation, and now the galaxy was reacting to their every move. The council had no choice but to prepare for the worst. They could no longer pretend that this was just a misunderstanding. Humanity was no longer a peaceful species, and the galaxy had to decide if they were ready for the consequences. On Earth, military preparations were in full swing. Humans had begun to assemble their fleets, not just for defense, but for offensive operations. The warships that had once been used to protect Earth were now being upgraded and readied for battle. Humanity had never seen a military force like the one being created now. Ships capable of destroying entire fleets in minutes were being built. And soldiers were training day and night, preparing for a conflict that would change the galaxy forever, despite the growing tension. Earth's leaders were not without doubt. Is this the only way? One leader asked in a quiet moment of reflection. Is war truly the answer? Haven't we fought enough battles in our history? Should we risk it all just to prove ourselves? But another leader, one with a sharp and determined look, replied, We've been pushed too far. The galaxy must understand who we are. We can't go on letting others walk all over us. If they want a war, we'll give it to them. We'll make sure they never forget it. The decisions were being made, and the warships continued to prepare for battle. Humanity had chosen their path, and now it was only a matter of time before they made their move. The galaxy was unsure of what would come next, but it was certain of one thing. Humanity was not the species it had once been. They were not the underdogs anymore. They were becoming something much stronger, and whether the galaxy was ready or not, humanity was ready to fight. The tension in the galaxy was reaching its peak. The council had spent countless hours debating, arguing, and trying to find a solution, but the humans remained silent. Their warships were ready, their fleet was prepared, and their leaders had made it clear they would not back down. The Galaxy Council, once so sure of its power and influence, was now facing the reality that humanity could not be ignored any longer. As the days passed, the humans made their move. They sent a message to the Council, not one of peace or diplomacy, but a direct challenge. The message was clear. If you want war, we will give you war. But if you want peace, you must meet us on our terms. The Council was stunned. It had never expected the humans to take such an aggressive stance. For years, humanity had been seen as a minor species, a newcomer to the galactic stage. But now, they were demanding respect. They were ready to fight, and they had the power to back it up. The Arceans, always advocates for peace, were the first to react. This is not what we wanted, said the Arceans leader, his voice filled with sorrow. We never imagined that humanity would choose war. We must try again to speak with them, to reason with them, but the Zorvans, who had always valued strength, above all else, saw things differently. There is no room for negotiation, said the Zorvan leader. The humans have made their choice. We can either fight back or submit to their demands. There is no middle ground. The debate grew heated as the council struggled to come to a decision. Some members were still holding on to the hope that humanity could be persuaded to return to the path of peace. Others, like the Zorvans, believed that war was inevitable. The council had to act quickly, but every decision seemed to carry grave consequences. Back on Earth, the human leaders were preparing for what they believed was the final showdown. The warships that had been built to defend Earth were now fully armed and ready to strike. The soldiers who had once trained for peace were now preparing for battle, and the message they sent was clear. They would not go down without a fight. The human leader, Commander Derek Matthews, stood at the helm of the largest warship, watching as the final preparations were made. The ship, the Freedom's Fury, was a symbol of humanity's newfound power. It was armed with weapons that could decimate entire fleets in seconds. And now, it was ready to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. We have been treated as a second-class species for too long, Matthews said, his voice steady but filled with determination. It's time to show them that we are not weak. We will fight for our place in this galaxy, and we will make them respect us. The soldiers aboard the Freedom's Fury were not just trained warriors. They were humans who had endured countless hardships. They had fought their way through wars on Earth, surviving the darkest times in their history. They were ready to fight again, but this time it was for something greater than just their home planet. It was for their future, their survival, their place in the galaxy. The news of the humans' decision sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Council could no longer pretend that the humans were harmless. The Freedom's Fury was not just a warship, it was a statement. The galaxy had ignored humanity for too long, and now humanity was making it clear that they would no longer be pushed around. As the human fleet prepared to move out, the leaders of the council were left with one last choice. Did they continue to resist humanity's demands, or would they accept that the galaxy's balance of power had shifted? If they chose to fight, the war would change everything. No one could predict how it would end. But one thing was certain. Humanity was ready to face the consequences of their choice. Commander Matthews was not naive. He knew that the conflict would not be easy. The galaxy was powerful, and many species had weapons that could rival his own. But he also knew that humanity had something that others did not: the will to survive, the will to fight for their place in the galaxy. In the council chamber, the debate continued. The Rythians still pleaded for peace, arguing that the galaxy could find a way to avoid bloodshed. But as the minutes ticked by, it became clear that time was running out. The human fleet was on the move. They were not waiting for the council's approval. "If we don't act now, it may be too late," said a voice from the council. One of the more cautious species, humans have shown us that they are no longer the peaceful species we once knew. They are strong, and they are ready to fight. We must decide whether we will continue to fight them or accept the reality of their power. The decision had to be made, and quickly. The council's unity, built over generations, was now in danger. The humans had proven that they were willing to take action, and the galaxy was about to learn just how powerful they had become. As the human fleet sailed toward the heart of the galaxy, but the question remained: would the council accept humanity's terms, or would they face the consequences of their decision? The decision had been made. The Galaxy Council, unable to come to a peaceful solution, was now preparing for war. The humans, once seen as small and unimportant, were now at the center of a conflict that could change the galaxy forever. The Council's leaders, though reluctant, knew that they had no choice but to face the humans in battle. The Freedom's Fury was not just a ship, it was a symbol of humanity's strength and determination. As the human fleet made its way toward the heart of the galaxy, the Council scrambled to respond. Peaceful species that had once tried to avoid war were now preparing their own defenses, hoping to stand against the powerful force humanity had become. But many knew that their weapons were no match for the advanced technology the humans had developed. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long, and now it was too late to undo the damage. Commander Derek Matthews stood on the bridge of the Freedom's Fury, watching as the stars moved past them. His face was calm, but his mind was filled with the weight of the choice they had made. This was not just about Earth anymore. It was about proving that humanity had a place in the galaxy, that they were no longer to be pushed aside. "We're ready," Matthews said, his voice steady. "We've come this far, and we'll go the rest of the way. No matter what happens, we stand strong." His crew nodded, understanding the stakes. These were humans who had lived through war and hardship, and now they were ready for whatever came next. They had prepared their ships, upgraded their weapons, and trained for battle. Earth had never seen a military force like this before, and the galaxy was about to learn what humanity was capable of. Back at the council, the leaders were still unsure of how to proceed. The news of humanity's advance had shaken them, but many still hoped for a peaceful resolution. They sent out more diplomats, hoping to meet with the human commanders and negotiate a ceasefire. But it was clear to everyone that time was running out. The human fleet was too close, and the council was divided between those who wanted to continue fighting and those who believed they should try again to talk in the neutral zones of the galaxy. Both sides prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The Zorvans, always ready for war, gathered their fleets, eager to show humanity that they would not back down. Peaceful species, led by the Rithians, tried one last time to call for a ceasefire. But the human response was swift and clear. They would not negotiate further. Humanity had made its decision, and now it was up to the galaxy to either accept or fight. The first battle came quickly. The human fleet, led by the mighty Freedom's Fury, engaged the Council forces in a neutral zone near the center of the galaxy. The human ships, with their advanced technology and superior weapons, tore through the Council's defenses with ease. The battle was brutal, but the humans showed no mercy. They had come to prove a point, and they were willing to fight until the end. The Council ships, though powerful, were outmatched by the human warships. The humans' weapons were more advanced and their strategies more unpredictable. The once-proud fleets of the galaxy were forced to retreat, their commanders scrambling to regroup. It was clear that humanity had the upper hand, and the Council's position was weakening with every passing moment. Back on Earth, the people watched the news reports in silence. The war that so many had feared had finally begun, and humanity was now at the heart of it. Many still questioned the decision to go to war, but the human leaders stood firm. They had made their choice, and there was no turning back. The message was clear. Humanity would fight for its place in the galaxy, and they would not be ignored anymore. As the battle raged on, the Council was forced to rethink its strategy. The peaceful species who had once hoped for a peaceful resolution were now realizing that war was the only option left. They had misjudged humanity, and now they were paying the price. The Zorvons, who had pushed for military action from the start, were pleased with the outcome. But they knew that this was just the beginning. The war was far from over. "Humanity has shown us its strength," said a Zorvan commander. "Now we must respond with everything we have. Cannot allow them to continue this path." The Council was now fully divided. Some still held on to the hope of peace, while others, like the Zorvons, were ready to take the fight to humanity. The galaxy was in chaos, and it was clear that there was no easy way out. The war had begun, and there was no telling where it would lead. As the human fleet continued its advance, the Council realized that the galaxy had changed forever. The once quiet species from Earth had risen to power in a way no one could have predicted. And now the galaxy would have to decide how to respond to humanity's challenge. Would they continue to fight, or would they finally acknowledge humanity's strength? The battle was just the beginning, and the fate of the galaxy was uncertain. One thing was clear, however. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, and it was not going to be forgotten.